It's time for Life Engineering, processes that combine science, wisdom, and spirituality to build a life of alignment. Joining Dr. Pat is your host, Gabriela Embon, bringing you bi-weekly wisdom nuggets, your step-by-step guidance to build a life of no regrets. Stay tuned as they uncover powerful processes for you to realize your true potential. Are you ready for some magic wisdom? Life Engineering starts now.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Pat, and I get to take this wonderful journey with the most incredible Gabriela. We are going to get right at it. And this is one of the most powerful conversations to date on the series you're doing on Yes, the spirituality of Yes. And there's a lot to unpack here, but I have to tell you, in the recent weeks, I've gotten a real dose of how important this is and the difference between quantum leaping and quantum sleeping. So take us on the, you know what I'm saying, right? Right?
I laugh because it's the best way to approach it without sarcasm, but yes. And that's because probably when you hear the word spirituality, what do you think about? What's the first connotation that comes to your mind?
Yeah. Well, most people think about God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even like a conversation. It's so many people, you know, it's like one of these words that you ask somebody and everybody will have a different version of it.
That's right.
But very rarely do you put the word spirituality and yes together.
That's right. So today we're going to do our best to explain how we view this spirituality of yes. We're going to start by really going into two different models that have done such a great job explaining how the spiritual world and the physical world actually intertwine and work with us as human beings and spiritual beings at the same time. Because of course, the first aspect of spirituality is understanding that there is more than our eyes can see and our ears can hear and our sense can perceive. And I am pretty sure that most of our listeners don't need much convincing on that.
Yeah.
But I've studied ThetaHealing extensively. I'm an instructor and I study Kabbalah as well as a beginner. And I find it fascinating to see the parallels of both. So we're going to dive into these two different models that describe the process of creation from the infinite divine light, from that spiritual world, to the very material, finite universe. And both offer a framework to understand how does it work? What is that spiritual hierarchy and structure of existence? Okay? Because both do actually a great job at explaining it, how that energy descends and manifests in the physical world. And it is important to understand it so we can get into the spirituality of yes. And there's great parallel. We're going to talk about the parallel between the two models. So
Yeah.
again,
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for this, because a lot of times when you break it down the way you're going to break it down today, people will realize that spirituality, as you just described it, we can almost always in time point to actions that we look at with, how do you want to call them? Spiritual masters? I don't know what to say about them. But these people that we revere, they are not even the Dalai Lama just sits in the mountains of Tibet, right? Or just sits anywhere. So I just want to be clear that the process you're taking us through, especially because you mentioned theta healing, OMG. So are you going to help us understand when we put spirituality of yes together, they're both the invisible that can turn out to be the visible?
That's right. Let's introduce both models. So well said. Let's introduce both models so we understand what we're talking about, and then we'll dive deeper from there. Okay, so in the Kabbalah model, there are 4 worlds that are described. And these worlds describe the levels of creation and existence. In ThetaHealing model, there are 7 planes of existence that explain, again, the process of creation and existence. So let's start with the highest level. In Kabbalah, the highest world is called Atzilut, okay? Which is the world of divine unity. This is where divine unity is complete and the Creator's presence is fully manifested. In ThetaHealing, that would be the seventh plane of existence, the plane of the Creator of all that is, the highest level of existence, representing pure consciousness and again, unity with the divine. So when we are connecting to those levels, we are becoming as one with the energy of the creation, with the Creator of all that is. The parallel between both models, both Atzilut and the seventh plane represent the highest level of spiritual reality, where there's no separation between the Creator and the creation. And they both embody pure essence of divinity and the ultimate source of existence. So that's the highest level, okay? The second would be, the second world, according to Kabbalah, is Bria, okay? That second world is the world of creation, where distinct entities begin to form, but still within a highly spiritual realm. In ThetaHealing, we call it the sixth plane of existence, the planes of the laws, where the fundamental laws and principles of the universe, such as the law of time, the law of electricity, the law of karma, everything is formed. So it's basically what keeps this universe working. Okay? The parallel of both are the realm of creation and structure, where the divine energy begins to differentiate into laws, into distinct entities. Okay? They organize the reality and they shape our existence. Going lower, the third world is the world of Yetzirah in Kabbalah, which means the world of formation. The word Yetzirah means formation, to create, to form. This is where the abstract ideas of the second world, Bria, take shape and structure, representing emotions, angels, and spiritual frameworks. In ThetaHealing, that will be the fifth plane of existence, the plane of divine and semi-divine beings, where spiritual beings such as angels and ascended masters reside. You see the parallel?
Yeah.
It is also associated with the realm of the soul. We say our soul, that is divine in nature, comes from the fifth plane and the realm of emotional experiences. Of course, there's great parallel between Yetzirah and the fifth plane. They both deal with formation and emotions, where spiritual energy begins to take a more defined form to define souls, and where emotions and spiritual beings play a significant role in shaping the reality.
Yeah. You know what I love about this so far? Because this is how we go from, okay, this is how we go from an idea of the invisible all the way through paintings and pictures.
Yes.
Of them,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just struck by the Sistine Chapel and things like that, because we go from the invisible concept of something. And when you go through this and explain how these show up, of course, we have a translator somewhere in here to help us, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
listen, I think that none of these concepts are new. I think this is not the first time somebody hears the word souls or angels. It's just a question of putting things in perspective and creating order in our own logical mind so we can process that information.
So we also know it's possible too. See, because if we think that there is not, I'm sorry for this language, but for the people out there that are really left-brained, if we really think there's not a methodology to manifestation or not a methodology to conceptualization, then it's really hard for us to take the leap to, dare I say, believe.
Yeah, that's right. These are conceptual models. I love that word because they truly help us to harness that energy that is available to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to have it because we now know in energy, what you focus on will expand. So if we don't know what to focus on here, if you're not walking us through it and telling us how this works, then we're not going to have a sense of it. And yes, we go through life and there are many times I've had blind faith where I have had nothing to hold on to. but what is exactly in my consciousness to help me rise up. But if we understood this, may I call it a blueprint? If we understood this blueprint, wow, there's no limit.
That's right. Let's move to the fourth world. In Kabbalah, the fourth world is the world of Asiya, which means action. Okay. And in ThetaHealing, the parallel will be the first 4 planes of existence. So play 1, 2, 3, 4. So the world of action, Asiya, is the physical realm where spiritual concepts get manifested as physical forms and actions. While in ThetaHealing, that will be plane 1, which is the anorganic material, the minerals, the earth. Plane 2, which is the plants, the microorganisms, the flowers, the trees, the vitamins. Plane 3, which is the physical world, like humans and animals. And plane 4, which is the realm of ancestral spirits and collective unconscious. All right, so now we have both. And the parallel of Asiya corresponds to the entire range of physical and material existence. I love seeing your excitement, Dr. Pat. I'm trying to get focused. As represented.
That's why I'm not interrupting. I'm just going to stay excited.
Okay, I love your face. All right, good. And this is everything from basic elements of the physical world to the human life and the ancestral influences, all of which are manifestations of spiritual energy that descends in what we call in Kabbalah, it's called Tzimtzum, which means to reduce that energy into physical. Even the soul, when it's in the body, there is a reduction. The soul is multidimensional. To be inside the body, there's a spirit that gets in the body. So it's that process of reduction of energy that brings things into material. And both models provide a framework for understanding this process of dissension, of Tzimtzum, of putting everything, reducing that energy into a physical manifestation.
Yeah. Okay, I want to ask you a question because I want to show people, and you tell me if this is how this works. So when you see my backdrop, you see a number of different things. I was asked about it the other day, so I'm going to keep this really brief. And somebody said to me, is that like an owl peeking through the plant over there? And you could barely see it, right? It's a gold owl on the wall. Now, I don't think anybody looks at my background. I know what I put in my background. So they started to ask me about it. And what you just described is the process by which I decided to put those things up. I don't have a framework. So please help me and help our listeners. So what do I have up on the wall? I have a gold owl. Why? My first vision quest, I was given, out of all the feathers in the desert, an owl feather. What does that come to mean to me since 1997? On the bottom, I was given, I spent a lot of time in the Asian cultures. There's a meaning of that, and it's joy. On the top, there's another image in a black frame, and on the other side is my diploma, and surrounded by plants in Kuan Yin. So
all the planes of existence, including
that's
the
what
owl
I'm
that
trying to
probably
say.
is your totem animal from the 4th plane of existence.
Yeah. So we do this, and this is, Gabrielle, what I was so excited about. What you're bringing to us is a level of aware of a process we already do, but may not know it. And if we knew how to use this process, then what would happen? We may manifest things that we really want and not manifest things we.
Absolutely.
Am I oversimplifying it? I'm sorry.
No,
if I am.
look, I don't think it has to be complicated, because when people hear spiritual, they think of higher levels. But I want to challenge that idea, because how do we say yes? What's the real meaning of the spirituality of yes? How do we say yes to divine guidance? How do we say yes to spiritually speaking? The answer is through actions. It is through the world of Asiya, the world of action, the physical realm, where spiritual concepts actually manifest as physical forms and actions. It is through that action that we can actually receive guidance and experience trust in divine, and experience divine providence. You cannot experience trust
Yeah.
and divine providence if you are not taking action. And I'll give you a very simple example. So I finished writing my book, and yes, and the experience of writing the book was, I don't even know what words to use, but I felt the divine guidance along the way all the time. Almost,
Yeah.
I cannot even, I think this is where I felt it the most. I felt the words flowing through me. I felt the examples were given to me. I felt the design was given to me. I felt the presence, the energy of divine throughout the entire process. I enjoy writing this book so much that when I finished, I almost felt sad that it's done. That's how wonderful and effortless this felt. But had I not started working on the book, but having it as an idea, I wouldn't be able to feel that divine guidance. The guidance was so magnificent that it was humbling. That's the right word. It was humbling when you experience that level of guidance or that level of divine in guidance or providence.
Yeah.
So only when I started writing the book, I actually experienced it.
Yeah.
It is through our actions that we say yes to divine. Does it make sense?
It does. I mean, if you ever heard me describe the first time I got behind a microphone 20 years ago, doing something that was never on my radar to do, hello, no. I mean, what? You know, I was supposed to be a big time consultant. I had won all sorts of awards for my research and I was depressed. But the minute I got behind a mic, it was as you described. And if you would have asked me to describe that, it would have been hard. It was like coming home. It was like breathing. It was like something you can't describe. But what you just did today is you walked us through how this really works. And the reason this is important is for me to have that experience on the mic and not be able to repeat it, or not be aware that I can repeat it in writing a book, in speaking. It leaves people with an unending doubt. Is this a fluke? Can I really feel this more than once? And I think that's what you're saying today. You know, shout out to Madonna. Why? When Madonna started to talk about the Kabbalah, when she started to write, shout out to Madonna, a pop culture icon. Some of you probably may not even be old enough to realize this. But when she started to do music that was very different than Material Girl, and she started to do songs like Frozen, something shifted for people. And it shifted for her, and it shifted for her fans. Why? What if it was what you just described? What if that energy then manifested into frequency? What if that frequency then can create a ripple effect? What if that ripple effect can change the world?
Oh, if we talk about that energy manifesting as frequency, we're talking about the law of music and the sixth plane, the word of Bria in the Kabbalah, the parallel. Absolutely, totally. She was probably working with that law of music and channeling that. But so there are two things. I want to look at this in two different ways. One benefit of understanding this model is, in a way, a little bit selfish, because by understanding the model allows me to manifest what I want and tap into what I'm meant to be doing to serve this world. But there's another side to this. And it's the side of taking responsibility to make the world better. Let me explain this. I was listening to Dennis Prager. He has that radio show, right? He was talking about what it takes to be a good person. He asked random people on the street, are you a good person? Do you consider yourself a good person? And most of them said, yes, I am. They were even surprised that he would ask that. Of course, I'm a good person. The answer was obvious for most of them. But why is that? Why do you think people consider themselves good? That's because they evaluate being a good person based on their intentions. And most people have good intentions.
And they really do believe they are good people. So I want to be very clear.
Oh, yeah.
That research project, as I should call it, that was real people not even hesitating, said, of course I am, like, in
Of
their
course I
own
am.
way. That was like a
Genuinely.
spiritual yes.
Yes, in a very genuine self perspective. I am a good person. Of course, I have the best intentions. I want good for everybody, right? I don't have hatred. I don't have revenge inside me. I'm a good person. But here's the thing, and this is what he talks about is so powerful. Most people have good intentions, but unfortunately, few of them act on these intentions. And I have such a great story about this, which unfortunately or fortunately I'm not going to share yet, because I'm using that story for my speaking competition in September, so I don't want to spoil it. But it is actually the fact that most people, if you ask them, okay, you have good intentions, what have you done today to showcase your goodness, to act on those intentions? Most people will actually reflect deeper and realize they haven't done much. They might fall short. So all this to say that the true power of yes, or the true spiritual power of yes, and we're going back to where we started, is found beyond the intention.
Yeah.
It's found in the action. Is when you cross from intention to action that you actually access that power.
Yeah.
And you allow that spiritual energy to come to the lower world, which is the purpose of our existence here.
You know, I want to ask you this question and have you talk about this, since you can't share that story. Okay, I'm going to now like be on the edge of my seat for that. But I want to ask you about this because, you know, there are things that are happening now in the United States that have people scratching their head. It doesn't matter what political party you're from. It doesn't matter. It's not that. But you're seeing something happen with a leader that has never been done before. And Kennedy said, you know, JFK, that Kennedy, JFK really called people out decades ago. Ask not what your country does for you. Remember that? Ask what
you can do for your
country. And people are like, whoa, yeah, right? As if we didn't know that, but we don't know it. And that's what I want to talk with you about, because this idea of selflessness doesn't mean you don't take care of yourself. And so often when we look at spiritual parallels, just like we did, let's not leave this out of the conversation. Can you bring this full circle to say sometimes we have intentions to grow. Sometimes we have intentions to have more. Sometimes we have intentions to get a pay raise. See, sometimes we confuse spirituality with lack. And that's not what we're saying. I want to be clear that what you're talking about is spirituality of yes.
I'm talking about the spirituality of yes. I'm talking about revealing the light in this physical world, even if sometimes it feels that it's hidden. That's what we're here to do. And I'm talking about being of service. Yes, learning all this and mastering this art so you can manifest for yourself, but also realize that you're going to know when you're being called of service. You will. I'll give you a story about that before we end. Last Wednesday, I had a super exciting day. I was scheduled to speak live in a women's empowerment festival about my book. And I was also a guest speaker at a podcast, and I talk about my book. So 2 very meaningful events in one day. It was my first time being a guest speaker, even though we've been doing this together for a long time, but this is, our podcast. So I was very nervous in a good way, excited and self-conscious. And the first talk was scheduled for 11:30. And I was happy to have the morning to prepare mentally. I said, I'm going to rehearse, I'm going to prepare, I'm going to meditate. And in fact, I left the morning free, just so I have time before 11:30. And the night before, I got a WhatsApp message from a person that I never met before, saying I was recommended by this person, and I remember that person. And I'm contacting you because I need help with employment. I have 2 job interviews tomorrow. And if you could see me tomorrow morning, I would truly appreciate it. And this was like at 8 p.m. I don't know what made me take that WhatsApp message. And without thinking, I said, I will see you at 9 a.m. Afterwards, my brain regretted it and says, but why? Why? You said you want the morning to prepare. Why did you take on that client? Why did you say yes and didn't think about yourself? But then at the same time, there was a higher voice that said, this one is not for you. This one is not for you. This one is for God.
Yeah. Bingo.
You do this service and you'll see your talks will be fantastic.
That's the point. You see, sometimes things happen for us in ways we can't do for ourselves, because that experience with that person probably prepared you better than you could have done yourself.
I felt so good that I was able to help this person. Not to mention that, an immigrant looking for work, this of course has a very soft place in my heart, but even if he wasn't an immigrant. So it was saying yes to God, which is spiritual, right? Through actions to help part of his creation, another human being. So the talks went really well. The podcast was more than I could have expected. And I felt that I was acting on divine guidance, even when sometimes it seems inconvenient, but that can lead to unexpected blessings and success.
Yeah.
So some of the yeses you'll be saying are not for you. This is God asking you for a favor. You can feel it. And that's what happened on that day.
Yeah. And we know whenever you're asked for a favor, you will get in return 2 or more times what you put in. We know that. What a great show. This is one of these shows I'm going to have to go back and listen to again, because what you've outlined for all of us is to say, wait a minute, if you understand the energetic way this works, the frequency, and yet the operational way that spirituality to yes works, you can do it every day in your life.
Absolutely.
Wow. How do people find out about you? Thank you so much for this. Now you got all of us waiting for the book and the story.
Yes, and the book is featured in my private website, not the academy. So it's GabrielaEmbon.com, and the pre-order will be available probably in a week or 2. So you're invited to visit.
Thank you. Gabriela, thank you so much. And if people want to know about the academy, how do they find out about that too?
Coachingacademy.net. We have a life coaching certification starting September 12th. So if you are looking to bring all this goodness to others and help people create a legendary life, a life of no regret, contact us. We have a great program.
I love it. Thank you, Gabrielle, so much for today. What a beautiful, beautiful show, but really super powerful. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Dr. Pat.
Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back.
You have been listening to Life Engineering, processes that combine science, wisdom, and spirituality to create a life of alignment on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Join host Gabriela Embon and Dr. Pat every first and third Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific for bi-weekly wisdom nuggets on how to create your perfect synergy between your mind, body, and spirit in order to realize your true potential. For more information, visit Gabriela at coachingacademy.net.